So will genetics ultimately dictate one's full potential of muscle growth? And for the unlucky ones, which factors are or is important to consider to maximize hypertrophy? So does a specific variable, exercise selection, volume, frequency, tempo, rest, bear more weight or have greater importance over another variable?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, genetics are ultimately going to dictate your ceiling. That said, let's say if you're a more unlucky genetic person, what things can you do to at least improve your chances of getting to that ceiling, wherever that, even if that ceiling is lower, what do you do to improve your chances to get that ceiling, and what variables are most important? I would say the emerging data is suggesting that, assuming that you're training hard, most of your sets are, close to failure, if you're training, in a moderate to high repetition range. Assuming you're training hard, that volume is going to be the most important variable. If you look at the research, volume certainly seems to be related to hypertrophy much more than things like exercise selection and frequency and tempo, things like that. Now, that's not to say those other variables don't matter. Exercise selection can play a role in certain instances. For example, I may upset some people by saying this, but at least in my opinion, the deadlift is not a great hypertrophy exercise.
I did a video on that.
I tend to share the same opinion with Menno Henselmans on that. People love to do deadlifts, but the range of motion is very limited. And I've seen a lot of real skinny, small guys that can deadlift some serious weight. So, for example, deadlift, not the best choice of exercise for hypertrophy, for example. But there's plenty of other exercises that work great. So exercise selection isn't totally critical. Frequency on a volume equated basis doesn't seem to play a huge role in hypertrophy. So you just want to make sure you're training with a frequency that allows you to do the highest quality work. And whether that's twice per week, 3 times per week, things like that. Tempo doesn't seem to be much important unless you're at the extremes. So if you're training with really rapid tempos, like you're basically dropping the weight, no eccentric at all, that's certainly detrimental for hypertrophy. Or on the other extreme, if you're doing super slow and really slow concentrics and stuff like that, that's also not going to be good for hypertrophy. But if you're somewhere in between, very controlled eccentric, powerful concentric, you don't need necessarily